started. Again, my name is Josh Hangmeal. I'm Assistant Dean of Students here. I want to first say thank you to you all for being here. I know that it's a long day. I know we're in this room a lot, and I know it's not everyone's favorite way to spend a day. However, I think it's great that you're here gaining some information that can help you support your student, and I know your students are better for it. So thank you for that in advance. Secondly, we've got a great lineup of programming here this afternoon that will help you, equip you to be a great support and engaged for your student. All of the speakers are very qualified experts in what they're about to talk about, and I really think you'll find all of it enjoyable and helpful. I do want to make one quick announcement. If you look at the back of your name tag, we had something come up with one of our presenters, and so we're going to swap 2 sessions. So the 2:35 session called Developing Healthy Students is now going to be at 3:15. And the 3:15 session called Career Resources is now going to be at 2:35. So it's just those 2 sessions are swapping. If you stay in this room all afternoon, you won't miss a thing. So it's not a big deal. But just so you know, if you're picking and choosing a little bit, wanted to make sure you were aware of those. Again, all of them are really great sessions, and all of them give you a lot of great information. And so we're going to get that started here with Dr. Steve Maurer from our Counseling and Psychological Services. I did say that this afternoon does a lot to help you prep to be a support for your student. He's actually going to talk a lot more about you than he is about your student. So there, I'm stealing a little of his thunder, but it's a great session, and enjoy Dr. Maurer.
Thanks, Josh.
And still room in the front. Plenty of seats in the front.
Okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me in the back? Can you hear me out in the hall? Gotcha. If you can hear me out in the hall, come on in. We are going to get started. Again, I'm Steve Maurer. I work here at St. Thomas in our counseling center, and I'm the director of CAPS. And I certainly want to welcome you here as a staff member, also as a parent of a Tommy. I want to welcome you in that respect as well. As Josh mentioned, we're going to shift the focus a little bit in this particular session onto you. Now, rightfully so, we know that most of orientation focuses on our sons and daughters. But any parent who's been through this before, we know that we as an entire family, we as parents, go through a transition as well when we send a daughter or son off to college. So we're going to shift a little bit of what we look at in the next half an hour. We have a couple of different goals for this session. The first is we want to provide a context for what you're going through. Okay, not your sons and daughters necessarily, but what you might be experiencing. And as a part of that, we want to normalize what you're going through. Okay? Now, anybody, has it been a long day, a lot of information? Anybody? You just had lunch? You're getting sleepy? Okay. In the interest of keeping you all awake, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. And if it holds true for you, I would like you to raise your hand. Now, when I'm teaching classes and I ask a question in class, this is how college students raise their hands. Yeah. You got it. You've been there. This guy knows. Yeah. Don't answer like a college student. I would ask that you raise your hand and you hold it up in the air for a little bit, okay? And on this first set of questions, I promise they're easy questions. You can't get them wrong, and you will not be the only parent raising your hand. I promise. This is, I think, the 23rd year I've been working with parents at orientation, and there's never been a parent who's been the only one raising their hands on this set of questions. So everybody ready? I'll ask you easy questions. You raise your hands. Deal? Okay. First question. How many of you to varying degrees are excited about your son or daughter heading off to college? Look around. Normal. So we're already normalizing. Next question. How many of you to varying degrees, again, might be anxious or nervous about them leaving for college? Look around. Normal. Anybody have some sadness that they're heading off to college? Look around. Normal. Anybody really happy that they're leaving for college? Oh, we've got a two-handed. Okay. Again, normal. Normal. If you look around, it's normal. And we also know that it's normal for us to experience a whole bunch of those emotions. So a lot of you raise your hands. You're excited and a little bit anxious. You might be a little bit sad, and you're also really excited and happy as well. So it's normal for us to be having a whole bunch of different emotions. Now, I try and watch the skits every year, and so I kind of know what's coming up. But every time I watch the skits, there's once or twice where I tear up a little bit. And then 2 minutes later, I'm laughing at the skits. So we know it's normal as parents for not only do we have a bunch of emotions going on, but they ebb and flow and they shift, okay? We're really excited in 1 minute, and then the next minute we think of something and we get anxious, and then we're really excited again later on. Normal, normal, normal. Now, when I ask the question about who's anxious, there are always some parents who do not raise their hands, okay? Now, I don't go all psychologist and say, well, clearly they're in denial of their feelings. It must be a Freudian defense mechanism. Like, we got to help them get in touch. No. When I see parents who don't raise their hands at that question, I simply think, oh, they're not anxious. Because it's normal for some of us not to be anxious, not to be sad. So we also know it's normal to vary in what each of us individually are experiencing. Okay? Now, if we ramp up the intensity of the emotions, and if we get that high enough, we can probably reach a point we'd all agree isn't normal, okay? If you're so anxious about them heading off to college that you bought a house across Cleveland Avenue, you registered for all the same classes they did, and you're unsuccessfully working with public safety and residence life to install cameras in their room, that wouldn't be normal, okay? That would be way beyond normal. If you're so sad that they're heading off to college that you can't stop crying, that wouldn't be normal. Now, again, it's normal at times for us to feel some sadness, maybe some tears, maybe to struggle. But if you can't stop crying, if your sadness is so pervasive and powerful that it gets in the way of the excitement, that wouldn't be normal. And we would hope that you talk with someone about that. Many years ago, I did one of these presentations, and that's back when the presentation was an hour long. So you can thank Josh that it's only half an hour long now. But I walk in to do the presentation, I'm 15 minutes early, and there's a mom sitting at the center table, and she's quietly crying, okay? 15 minutes later, I get started, I do the hour presentation, she's crying the entire presentation. 15 minutes later, after I've answered questions and talked to some parents, I'm heading out, people are on break, and she's still crying, so I stop by the table and say, you know, ma'am, I couldn't help but notice that you've been crying for the last hour and a half. I just wonder if everything's okay. And she looks at me, and she's still crying. She just says, oh, I'm fine, I'm just a little weepy. You think? Okay? We don't want that for you. We don't want you to be so sad, again, that it gets in the way of those positive emotions. So if you really can't stop crying, or that you have a family member that can't stop crying and can't experience the joy and excitement, that wouldn't be normal, and we hope that you get the help or talk with somebody about that. We also know that some of you were pretty happy to have your sons and daughters going off to college, but if you're so happy to have them start college that your plan is to leave them here today and go home without them, I get it. But that wouldn't be normal. You got to take them home with you today, okay? We're excited, too, about them coming in the fall. We're excited about them coming in the fall, okay? Not right now. We have more work to do before we're ready for them. So we really want to normalize what you're going through. And emotionally, we do go through stuff as parents as well. The third main goal of the session, and it's the goal of entire orientation, is simply to answer your questions. The whole point of orientation is to provide the information that you as parents need to be more confident, to be more comfortable when your daughters or sons head off to college. So please, ask questions. If at the end of the day you have important information you didn't get, ask the question. Now, if you're like me, I don't like asking questions in front of large groups, and the only time I think of really good questions is when? Exactly, when I'm gone, when I'm on my way home, or the next day. And if that's the case for you, it's still not too late. Give us a call, shoot us an email, but get your questions answered. So to facilitate that, I'm leaving my business cards up at the edge of the stage and at the entrance, or the exits in this case. And do pick up a card, and if you have a question, feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. And I don't care if I'm the right person or not, or the best person to contact. If I'm not the best person, I'll figure out with you who is, and we'll get you connected with them. But the point is to answer your questions, so to alleviate some of that uncertainty for you as well. Okay. Individuality. Always remember that you're unique. Yep, just like everybody else, okay? We know there's some truth to this, actually. We're going to talk about some common themes that we will see in college students and in us as parents. You've already talked about some of the common emotions or demonstrated that we share some common emotions. But we also know that as parents, everyone enters into this in a slightly different situation or in a real different situation. And again, to demonstrate that and to keep you awake, I'm going to ask you a series of questions again, okay? First one's super easy. Somebody's already asked it today. For how many of you is this your first son or daughter heading off to college? So a lot of you. So it's all brand new. A lot of new stuff to learn. For how many of you is this your second? Okay? So quite a few of you, but St. Thomas might be the first, your first one sending to St. Thomas. So this might be new, even though you've done this before. Anybody your third? Okay, so we're getting to the veterans now. Anybody 4? Back there. Anybody 5 or more? Nobody wants to raise their hand. Where are the folks who have done this 4 times already? Okay, now I've only sent 2 kids off to college. Obviously, you're twice as experienced as I am, so one of you gets to come up and finish the presentation. Nice! A volunteer! Okay. No, we'll let you off the hook. Okay. A couple more questions. For how many of you is this your last son or daughter going off to college? Whole different situation when September might be an empty nest. Really different experience. Any of you, it's both your first and your last? Okay, you folks get the daily double. Okay, it's all brand new and you're experiencing possibly an empty nest. So a lot of new stuff happening. Okay, for any of you, will your sons or daughters be living at home and commuting to campus? So any parents or families of commuter students? So a few. So commuter students and their families face a whole different set of transitions. And in some ways, it's more difficult for the families of commuter students. Now, that seems counterintuitive, but if I live in Milwaukee and my kid is going to St. Thomas, we have very clear lines drawn. We know he's not coming home for the weekend. We know that she is not going to be shoveling the sidewalk in the winter here. We just know certain things. So when our kids are going to be living at home, some of the things get a little bit fuzzier. And so some stuff has to be worked on much more intentionally. But it's very clear, just from your experiences, that you're coming at this from different situations. What you're going through, if this is your first son or daughter and you still have 5 at home, that's a real different experience than if it's your 4th one and you're now looking at the empty nest. What you're going through is very different if your son or daughter is a commuter student or if you live 4 miles away versus Milwaukee or Detroit Lakes or Chicago. 10 minutes away for us as parents is very different than 10 hours away. So it's very clear that no matter what I say over the next 20 minutes, it's not going to fit everyone perfectly because you're coming at this from such different perspectives. And just want to respect and point that out. Okay, take home number 1 for this particular session. We have a counseling center. Okay, pretty straightforward. Now, our clients don't look like that kid. We don't look like that bear. And we don't have couches. But other than that, the picture is perfectly accurate. Okay, other than those 3 things. So I'm just going to give you quick information about our counseling center because this is the stuff that tends to put people to sleep. We do 3 main things in the counseling center. The first is counseling. We provide counseling, group and individual, to students. You as parents are not eligible for our counseling services, okay? Sorry. So when your daughter or son arrives in the fall, when that first week of classes start, they then can start coming into counseling if that's something that they want or need. And they get to use that throughout their time at St. Thomas. The second thing we do, the psychological services part, we do a lot of outreach and training, whether that's with parents or coaches or residence life staff, campus ministry, faculty. We do a lot of work with folks. And then the third thing we do is we do a lot of consultation. So people in St. Thomas community may have concerns about a student or a situation, and they can call us and walk through what they're seeing, what they're going through, and we figure out a plan. And this is where you as parents come in. As members of the St. Thomas community, you are invited to consult with us in our office anytime you have concerns about your son or daughter. Again, if we're not the ideal people to be talking to, we'll figure out who are, and we'll help get you connected to them. Now, your son or daughter, they have to wait until September before they're eligible for our services. But when it comes to the consultation, you are eligible for that starting this afternoon. Okay? So if this afternoon you have concerns, give us a call, shoot us an email. You get that service starting today. And just today at 11 o'clock, I had a consultation appointment with a mom and her daughter who are struggling with some stuff. They were at orientation last week. So the service begins now for you. Use it if it will be helpful. Two other quick things about our counseling services. That doesn't cost any additional money, so that's all free, and it's all confidential. If your daughter or son is coming to us for counseling, we can't tell you. It's illegal, it's unethical. So we will hope that they tell you and keep you in the loop, but just so you know, we can't. So don't hope for that. Okay, come on, we're at a university. I got to delve into a little bit of developmental theory. Theory, the word theory put about a third of you to sleep, okay? But again, I'll try and keep this as non-academic as possible. We know that in studying college students over the last 50 or 60 years, we see areas that they develop and grow while they're in college. And we're just going to walk through some of those. They achieve competence. It simply means they get better at stuff, better at doing laundry, better at learning the bus system, better at their major, better at all sorts of things. They get more competent. They learn to manage their emotions. What does it mean to be homesick? What does it mean to be the best at everything in high school, and now it feels like I'm just one of many people who were valedictorians or who were really, really good athletes? How do I deal with that emotionally? So they work on their emotions. They develop interpersonal relationships, and that's an area of strong, strong growth. Now, we know that the majority of our incoming students have never had a roommate before. We know that. Okay, and maybe for the first time, they're going to be living in a relatively small room with another person, and that takes some adjustment. Now, if they have had a roommate before, who has it probably been? It's probably been a brother or sister. Now, maybe things have changed since I was a kid, but did older brothers and sisters ever pull rank? Oh, this guy is rolling his eyes, so he's probably got an older brother or sister. Of course! Older brothers and sisters always pull rank. They get what they want because they're older. Now, if he and I are roommates in the fall, we compare birthdays, and I say, well, you were born in April, but I was born a month early in March. Therefore, I get the bigger locker, and I get the lower bunk. What is he thinking? Oh, no. It doesn't work that way, okay? So I have to negotiate with him maybe in a little bit different way because the power is the same. So interpersonal relationships are going to look a little bit different. We also know that for some of our students, they went to grade school together with the same group of people, and then they went to middle school with a lot of their friends, they went to high school with a lot of their friends, and maybe they're coming to St. Thomas and they don't really know anyone here. And maybe for the first time they ever remember, they have to, or get to, make friends from scratch and start a whole new social life here. So that can look really, really different for a lot of our students. They also work at establishing an identity, the sense of who they are and what's important to them. Okay, they discover and they work on what are their faith values, what are their political values, who do they want to be, what's their career path in life, where do they want to go, and what's important to them. Okay? This simply means, this one, developing integrity, simply means they start to integrate this stuff. So the decisions they make in their life on how to spend the weekend reflect their values, reflect what's important to them, reflect their relationships with other people. And then finally, they develop this sense of autonomy and interdependence. They recognize how they're independent in some ways and how they depend on other people in other ways. Now, we know from 60-plus years of research, this is what your daughters and sons will be working on over the next 4 years. Really good research. But let me ask you this. In all honesty, is there anything up there that's actually new for your son or daughter? No. The answer is no. And this, to me, is the most important take-home for parents from this session. When it comes to parenting, you know what you're doing. The basic fundamental tasks of your daughters and sons over the next 4 years are the same things that you've worked on with them for decades. You got this. You know what you're doing. So keep doing that type of parenting, because we know this is the stuff that you have worked on with them. That's the stuff that will continue, okay? Now think of your daughter or son who went off to college. Remember when they first learned how to walk? Anybody else do that, where they hold their fingers up and you hold their fingers and you walk like this behind them? And did anyone else do that? Or am I looking really stupid for, okay, I'm looking really stupid for no reason. So if this is what you did, and you want your kid to learn how to walk, what did you have to do eventually as a parent? Can you say that more loudly, please? You had to let go. And we all let go, right? Oh, please say yes. Because the alternative would be kind of scary right now. We all let go. Every one of us let go or watched as someone else let go. And come on, if we're realistic, what did we know was going to happen eventually once we let go? You knew they were going to fall down. Of course. That's what happens when you're learning how to walk. And yet, as parents, we all knew that and we let go anyway, because that's what good parents do. We let go and we let our kids fall down. Now, as good parents, we also don't teach our kid how to walk on the side of a busy road, or on a playground with broken glass. We teach them how to walk somewhere that when they fall down, they're really not going to get hurt too badly. Their ego might be hurt. They may skin an elbow or something, but they won't get hurt badly, and then they'll get up and keep trying. And we stand back and we let go, okay? Now, over the years, we know that one of the fears many parents have when their kids go off to college is this letting go. And I get it. I've had a couple kids go to college. But the reality is that you spent your whole life letting go. The letting go process of your daughters and sons is not new for you. Parenting is nothing if not a long series of letting go of different things in different ways. You've done this before, and we're asking you to do it again, okay? But we let go and they learn how to walk, and they're really wobbly. We let go and they learn how to swim or float, and they drink a lot of pool water or a lot of lake water, and it's a little scary at times, and then they figure it out. We let go and they learn how to ride a bike. We let go that very first time they get on that big school bus and go off to school, or the first time we drop them off at daycare. We let go in a really powerful way. We let go when we give them the keys to the car, and they get into this thing and they drive away. They drive away from us when they get in that car. And then they come back again. So it is different. We'll talk a little bit more about that. It's different when they leave for college, but the letting go process you've done before, over and over and over again. So again, as hard as it might be, you know what you're doing. You've been here before, okay? Now, as parents, we also have to let go of some of our expectations, okay, of who our child will be. My kid is going to be a musical genius, okay? My kid will be the CEO of an international corporation and will fund my retirement, okay? My kid is going to be, a world-renowned genius, or my kid's going to have great hair, okay, like Albert there. My kid's going to be a national champion athlete. Or my son or daughter will graduate from college and then they'll take over the family business or follow in my footsteps. And these are all wonderful things, but sometimes we as parents have to let go of them, because as our daughters and sons find their purpose, their path in life, it might be different than what we're hoping for or what we're expecting. So we have to keep working on letting go of that gently, okay, in ways that allow them to be who they're supposed to be. Now, if you went to college, you have to let go of your experience of comparing your college experience with theirs. Their experience should be just like mine or nothing like mine. I'm always curious to see who laughs at that second one, okay? The reality is that it's not going to look like either one of these. If they're spending 14 hours a day in the library, they're doing it wrong, okay? Because they're missing out on everything else the university has to offer. And if they're doing the Animal House thing, just like Animal House, they're going to all flunk out, okay? The reality is it's somewhere in the middle. But we also have to think about back when you were in college, if you went to college. How many of you had cell phones? None. Personal computers, none. When I was way back in the day when I was in college, I could almost make enough money in the course of a year to pay for a year of college. Yeah, we all know those days are gone. So the reality is, if you went to college, their experience will be very different from yours, okay? For better or for worse. And if you didn't go to college, then what do we base our expectations on? We base it on what we read and what we see on TV and movies. And those tend to be really inaccurate. The reality is it'll be some blend of these two. We hope they socialize. We hope they study. We hope they don't get too extreme on either end. But it's going to be different than what you expect. Now, as parents, oftentimes we have a set of concerns. And one of the things that happens is we have all these what-ifs that run through our head. See if you've thought of any of these, okay? What if he can't get into the classes he wants, okay? What if she gets a lousy professor? What if he can't find a job when he graduates? What if she picks the wrong major? What if he gets sick? What if she hates her roommate? What if he did some of the stupid things I did in college, okay? Yeah. What if? So as parents, we've got all these what ifs running through our head. And if that's the case for you, good. Those are really good questions. Those are great questions. Keep asking them. Keep asking them. In fact, they're such good questions. That's why we have academic counselors and academic advisors. That's why we have disability resources and a counseling center and a career development center and health services and tutors. These are great questions. Keep asking them. And then recognize that we have all the resources here to address those very concerns. And part of our job as parents, when we send a kid off to college, it's to figure out, how do I answer these questions? And then how do I connect with my kid at the college or at the university? Okay? So if your kid is having struggle registering for the classes she wants, why would you take that on? Okay? When we have experts who do a really, really good job of that, and they're getting paid to do that, let them do that work. Our job as a parent is to point our sons and daughters to the resources. You don't have to do all that heavy lifting anymore. You have to still do the other parenting stuff, but the academic stuff, you get to hand more of that off. But keep asking these good questions. Another common concern that oftentimes goes unspoken is, will my son or daughter be okay? And right underneath that for us as parents is a deeper question, have I done enough as a parent to send them off to college? Well, there's only two possibilities, folks. No, you haven't, okay? But we don't have time for large group therapy this afternoon. The reality is yes. Yes, you have done enough as a parent, okay? Now, you've not done it perfectly. None of us do. As parents, we all make mistakes. We learn on the fly. Nobody gives us the manual. We go to bed at some nights thinking, oh, I can't believe I did that or said that again. We all make mistakes. But what we know is that you've done enough that your son or daughter feels ready to head off to college. They feel ready to step off, and most of them move out of the house. Yeah, you've done enough as a parent. Good job. But then some other questions come up. Will they change? And those of you who have been through this, the answer is yes, we hope so. What a waste of 4 years and a boatload of money if they don't change in the next 4 years. Yeah, they're going to change. Okay, they're going to change. We don't necessarily know how, but they'll change. Will you change? We don't know. But we know your daughters and sons will change. So your relationship with them, that will change. You can't do well clinging to the relationship you have with them now, because 4 years from now, that will look different, because they will be older, more mature, more independent. So that relationship will change. Will they come home again? I don't know. And I don't know what answer you're looking for. But in a very real way, yes, they will come home again. And when your son or daughter leaves for college, they do not forget where they came from. And you can interpret that any way you want. They don't forget where they came from. And that's a good thing, because that's something they bring to our community. The values, the relationships they have at home and in their home community, they bring that to us. And they do remember. So, and then finally, will they still need me? And the answer is yes. This is a really, really big yes. For many of our students, this is the biggest transition they've ever gone through, moving away to college. And those areas of development that they're going to work on for the next 4 years, you're the experts when it comes to your sons and daughters. So the heavy lifting isn't over, folks. Still a lot of parenting to do, okay? A lot of work to do yet. And I mean that in a good way, but I also mean that in it still works sometimes, okay? They still need you. The famous American philosopher John Cougar Mellencamp, good, some of you have read his work over the years, yep, said there's nothing more sad or glorious than generations changing hands. And whether this is your first son or daughter heading off to college, or whether it's the last one and you're looking at the empty nest in September, make no mistakes, folks. Generations are changing hands. And that's happening today. As we're sitting here, generations are changing hands. And this adds an existential component to us as parents. And that's very real. And so even though the letting go process, you've done it over and over throughout their lives, when they leave for college, because of this reality, it adds some gravity to what we're going through as parents. And it increases oftentimes the intensity of what we're feeling. So yes, it is different in this sense when we let go and have our kids go off to college. Generations are changing hands. Now, a common concern that parents have, but I wish they would ask far more often, is, will I be okay as a parent? Okay? And we hope the answer is a big, big yes. And we hope that you do the things you need to be okay with this transition, that you take care of yourselves. Because we know that if you're really struggling with them heading off to college in September, they head off to college, but a part of them stays at home and worries about you. So if you can't take care of yourself for your own sake, do it for your daughter or son. Their transition will be better the better off you're doing. So please, take care of yourselves. We'd like you to think about in what ways your household is changing. And even if your daughter or son is still living at home, the household will change. Relationships, dynamics, they do shift. What are the reactions of the other kids at home? Okay? When we dropped our oldest son off to college a number of years ago, we drop him off, we say goodbye, he's jazzed, excited, everything's great. We get in the van, close the doors, off we go. Our 15-year-old son bursts into tears. He's devastated. There's nothing good about this for him. There's no win here for him. First of all, his best friend just moved out of the house. And second of all, he is now stuck home alone with, this is a quote, with the two lamest parents on the planet. Okay? And my wife was very clear. She is not the lamest, so guess what, okay? Other kids, other family members, we all have reactions, so really to pay attention to those. Tasks and chores, think about it. When they leave for college, who's going to do all that work around the house that they do? Okay, well, in theory, okay. The reality, though, is that you may be losing somebody who does a lot of work and who's going to pick up the slack. So there are adjustments to be made. And then again, physical spaces and things. Are you going to make changes at home when they leave? You know, do you rent out their room, okay? Do you turn it into a scrapbook room or a man cave or whatever, okay? But households will change, and it's good to be thinking about that. And we go through transitions as parents. I grieved when my daughter left for college, and then I grieved when she came home for Christmas break, okay? And if this happens to you, if you experience this, that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. What it means is that when your daughter or son left, things changed at home, and you adjusted to that, and things became normal. And then when they come back home to visit or to stay, that's a wonderful thing. We love our kids, but we grieve because they disrupt this new pattern we have. Case in point, quick case in point. Our oldest son left for college, we adjusted, he came home and we realized that boy is a pig. He is the messiest kid on the planet. It's not the younger one, it's him. And my wife and I really had to adjust to, great, we have to clean up again, okay? So that's a good thing if you have to grieve a little bit because it means you've shifted and adjusted. Some areas of discussion topics we'd like you to think about. If you haven't done these already, again, some will apply, some won't. Curfew if they're still living at home. How will you deal with finances and healthcare issues? This is about communication. How often are you going to communicate with them, and how often do you expect to hear from them? Now, there's no right or wrong answer, but it is something to think about. You know, you're thinking Sue is going to text you 8 times a day, and Sue is thinking, maybe when October gets here, okay? Big gap. So really be thinking about and talking about how are you going to handle that. Teach them how to do laundry. The skits are accurate. How often will you visit and vice versa? How will they spend time when they're visiting or when they're at home, particularly when they're a commuter student? How will they meet their friends and roommates? Will they have a car or not? Do they still have home responsibilities or other family responsibilities? Okay? They might be thinking none at all. You're thinking they'll still be helping out. Will they have a job? How do you deal with pets at home? Again, rooms and personal spaces. But all of these really come down to who in their life is going to make these important decisions. Who gets to make these? Now, again, we recognize as parents, you have way more experience at this. You're better at making decisions than they are. But again, if we want to teach them how to make good decisions, what do we got to do? We got to let go in it. We got to let them make some of those decisions. Now, again, don't let them do that in dangerous ways. You got to hang in there and help them, but really be thinking about how do you continue to allow them to make more and more of these decisions, even if they fall down and make mistakes, which they will. So, quick wrap up. What you're experiencing is normal. If you really think it isn't and it's extreme, please do talk with somebody. You are familiar with the basic changes that they're going through and will over the next 4 years, okay? You know what you're doing. Your main task is to be a parent to them, and you know what you're doing. Your family is changing, your student still really needs you, and please be okay. Make sure you take care of yourself. So, with that, I would like to welcome you officially to the St. Thomas family. We hope that you stay involved, that you come on Family Weekend Homecoming, that you read the parent newsletter, that you do come to campus to events and activities. Because our campus, our community, we're better when you become a part of this community and when you stay involved. It's been a joy for me as a St. Thomas parent to get involved in ways differently than I do as a staff member, and we hope you're able to do that as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over in the far side. Sister Sharon will give announcements for the next session.